Welcome to the Jordan and Vanessa show. I'm Vanessa.
And I'm Jordan.
And today's episode is about navigating negative self-talk.
Yes.
This episode was actually inspired by a really great friend and mentor of ours, Lynn. And a lot of these episodes now are actually being stemmed by friends and family and from the forum on our website at vibrationfit.com/coaching.
Mm-hmm.
So this conversation we had with Lynn at breakfast the other day, and she was just asking, how do you navigate this negative self-talk whenever it comes up during your day, whenever it kind of floods your mind, especially if it's something that you grew up with, maybe other people in your life like spoke these negative things into you and it became part of your identity and you still struggle with them. So different pieces of your identity that come up throughout your day that you're kind of plagued with.
Yeah.
How do you take those things and shift it into something that's productive, that's positive, that makes you feel good about yourself?
Yeah, and I really appreciated that from her because this woman is like a magician.
She's magical.
She's a literal magical entity on the planet. She's a Reiki master. She's been trained in all these shamanistic type practices. She's very advanced in spiritual healing.
She's very light. She's got this very beautiful energy about herself.
Yeah, she's amazing. So the fact that even she still navigates negative self-talk at her level of consciousness is just affirmation that, guys, we're all dealing with this.
Yes.
You know what I mean? It definitely is the situation where all of us have both wolves inside, and the one that wins is the one you feed.
Right. Yeah, totally. No matter where you are in life, no matter how much you've achieved, no matter what's going on, there's always the opportunity to focus on how incredible you are and how you are source energy or how awful you feel like you are.
Yeah, totally.
And really the difference between those is just a gap. Because I feel like source is always focused on the fullness of you, on how magnificent you are and all of the things that you are capable of. And anytime you entertain anything else, anytime you let this negative self-talk kind of run rampant in your mind like toddlers with scissors, then that's going to feel very painful because that's not truth.
Yeah, you totally nailed it. And if source is always going to be focused on basically the absolute most beautiful, amazing version of you, and the emotional guidance scale is essentially an indication scale letting you know whether what you're focused on is in harmony with source's perspective or not, then when you veer from that amazing, beautiful version of yourself in your own mind, you're going to feel the pain.
Definitely.
You are going to feel the pain.
And that's why negative self-talk feels so bad.
Yeah.
If you look at the emotional guidance scale, negative self-talk is actually at the bottom. Like there's 22 emotions on the emotional guidance scale. At the very top, the first emotion being joy, empowerment. So that those are the best feeling emotions. At the very bottom, you have number 22, which is fear, grief, depression, despair, powerlessness. And negative self-talk, I believe, fits in at emotion 21, which is insecurity, guilt, unworthiness.
Yeah.
And
unworthiness.
That's is the big one. So not feeling like you're worthy of your desires or feeling that you're worthy of the incredible things that are in your life or attracting the things that you have the desire to attract.
Totally.
So negative self-talk really lives in that unworthiness emotion as well as hatred for yourself, like self-hate. How many of us start entertaining these negative self-talk thought loops that really make you start hating yourself or hating different aspects about yourself?
Totally.
And guys, that's never going to feel good.
No, and I've definitely been there a lot. I'm definitely an inward attacker of self when it comes to
self-deprecation.
Yeah, self-deprecation, or like when situations arise in the world, like I've always wanted to empower myself so much. So it was very not in my nature to blame or put it outside myself for the solution.
Right.
So I
take personal responsibility for things.
Take personal responsibility. I learned early on in entrepreneurship that you need to take personal responsibility for your own life. And sometimes mixed in that energy is sort of everything's on me. I got to figure it out. If I'm not getting it done, then you're just not enough. you need to be more, you need to be better, you need to be stronger, you need to be faster, you need to be leaner, you need to be smarter, you need to be whatever. And if you're not those things, then you're a piece of shit, dude. You suck. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like, whoa. That was a really fast spiral.
Yeah, like you went there really fast. And it's like, well, if you want to be more, then if you want to experience more, then you've got to be more and you got to figure it out. You're not enough yet. You're not enough yet. Maybe if you go take some more training or take another course or lift some more weights or do some more push-ups or read another business book or whatever, then you'll be enough. But right now you're not enough. And that whole unworthiness spin that you just nailed, talking about the emotional guidance scale, like I've been there a ton in my life. I don't know if any other entrepreneurs can relate to that, but I've definitely been there a lot because like I just couldn't deal with the idea of my success being out of my control in some way. So I would just inwardly try to find solutions rather than looking outside myself to blame any circumstance or any person for wherever I landed.
Right. Yeah, I feel like one of the most powerful affirmations is just, I am enough. I am worthy. I am worthy as I am for whatever it is that I desire in life.
Totally.
Like I am totally enough. And that is super powerful just to step back and see that. Like one of the things we said in business too is I get paid for being me. Mm-hmm. Instead of feeling like, oh, I have to do all of these things. I have to action my way there and then I'll be enough. Yeah. We would just state, I get paid for being me. And I feel like that has been really powerful in our business endeavors even.
Yeah, and I think this actually brings up a really good point, which is, where does your worthiness come from? Where does worthiness come from? Does it come from all the achievements that you've achieved in physical reality? Does it come from the amount of money in your bank account? Does it come from the car that you're driving? Does it come from how attractive your spouse is? Does it come from, then I won. Yes, that would be awesome. Yes.
I'm now worthy of everything.
All my worthiness came from that, then that was like, I did it.
Oh my goodness.
But like how many kids you had, like where does it come from? How tall you are, how strong you are, how much weight you can lift, like where does worthiness come from?
And I feel like the well is different for everybody. Their worthiness well.
Yeah, the worthiness well. When you go that route, where you're looking into physical circumstances as some sort of a validator for whether you would be worthy to receive
as
or not.
As
a qualifier, exactly. And 100% different people have different stuff that they base their foundation of worthiness on.
Right.
And the reality is none of that is what qualifies you as a worthy entity to receive in the physical universe.
Right.
You are infinite source energy. You are the projection of infinite energy into physical reality.
Yeah.
You're not separate from, you are the physical extension of infinite energy. And that infinite energy is connected to God, source energy. You're an individual unit at the same time that you're a part of the whole. And saying that you're unworthy in any way as a piece of that amazing light would be the equivalent of saying that God is not worthy to receive. Most people would say that's insanity.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like whenever you spin it that way, it's like, oh, no way would I ever say something like, that's crazy. You don't say God's not worthy. Are you nuts? You know, it's like,
but if you come back to the realization that you are one with God and God is everything, then there's nothing that you are unworthy of.
Precisely. So worthiness is inherent within all of us.
Yeah.
It's in all of us. You are worthy. You were worthy when you physically projected into this physical plane of pursuing whatever desire was interesting within you, because that's how the physical universe is set up. We're all creators. We're all physically manifesting cool things into experience based on the unique desires that are called forth within us. Mm-hmm. And you were worthy when you showed up. You're still worthy now.
Right.
No matter what comes up in your head about the qualifiers that society has taught you, if it doesn't feel good, it's because it's the infinite part of your consciousness is saying, I don't know where you picked that up, dude.
Right.
But none of that stuff matters.
Yeah, and the law of attraction is really just connecting you with experiences that match whatever you're feeling about yourself. So if you feel like, for example, if you feel like you're an awkward person, maybe that day you get connected with a lot of conversations with different people that are awkward. And it's just validating that thought, that negative self-talk of, oh my gosh, I am an awkward person.
I'm a personal joke laugher. Like, I'll make a joke and laugh hysterically loud.
Yeah.
Regardless of what people around me think. And I feel like I've had plenty of those in my life where I'll be like at the grocery store counter or something. I'll be like, these strawberries are huge. Like, I don't know, just like laugh. And then they're just looking at me like, you're a really strange duck, aren't you? I'm like, yep, I'm leaving now. Bye. I'm running out of here.
Yeah, how many times do we replay those things, those social interactions later?
Yeah,
it's like,
totally.
I can't believe I said that, or I can't believe I did that.
Oh,
I'm
totally.
such a dummy.
Yeah.
But yeah, these are all like these negative self-talk loops that we have going on in our heads all the time. And then we just receive manifestational evidence from it. I believe that's just the universe saying, I love you. This is what's going on in your vibe right now. Like, what do you feel like shifting it? Because there is another way. There is another path where you can experience more fully who you truly are.
Totally. I won't be joining you in that strange little awkward party you're having with yourself.
Yeah.
That's what Source says. It's like, you're good. You're worthy. You're still whatever. But how often do we do that where you like leave the conversation or you leave the interaction or whatever? You're like, stupid. Why would you say something like that?
I can't believe it.
Why am I all of a sudden lisping? I can normally speak totally perfectly.
Yeah,
what?
it's like, but it's so true. It's always there for us. We can either choose the negative self-talk or we can choose the empowerment. And one of the exercises I like to do that you might laugh at me for this, but I like to imagine myself as like my infinite self as like a goddess.
Yes.
And it's
I like this narrative.
It's Goddess Vanessa.
Yes.
Like, she's beautiful. She's perfect. She's extremely confident.
Yes.
She's all knowing. And whenever I feel that negative self-talk, whenever I feel less than or unworthy, I like to think of this infinite self, this infinite Vanessa, this goddess, and just think about what she is. What is her essence?
I think I projected that image into your mind because that's how I see you.
Oh my goodness.
That's literally like what you just described. It's like what I think about all the time.
It's almost like an Amazon woman, like from Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
And that's what I see. So I see this beautiful, perfect, whole Vanessa, this infinite self. And I literally ask the question, what is she like? What kind of qualities does she have? How does she behave? How does she carry herself? And whenever I feel out of alignment with myself, I start pondering those things. I start asking those questions, and I start getting clarity on what it is I've already become.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times it's just stepping into what you already are.
Yes.
And then once you step into what you've already become, I believe that the universe gives you situations to experience yourself fully as what you already are.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Because that's why we came here, to experience ourselves as the wholeness, as the fullness of what we truly are in non-physical.
Yeah, totally. And that actually brings me to a really good point of, I think, a really good exercise if you really want to hit a negative self-talk scenario head on is really just to engage that much bigger, broader energy really fully, really dynamically, as big as you can,
right?
For lack of a better word. Just, you want to totally encompass that infinite version of yourself in your own mind and just allow it to completely take over yourself. So you want to focus as much as you can on all of your amazing, beautiful qualities. And if for some reason you've allowed the manifestational physical reality to become your qualifier for worthiness, you know? Like if you're in that energy
It's not
at
a fun
all,
trap.
yeah, then lean to what you just said
Yeah.
of, okay, maybe I don't feel qualified based on what I'm physically experiencing here, but if I am the physical extension of infinite consciousness and that is God's source energy and God is worthy of all things, so I am worthy of all things, and I see my worthiness is coming from that part of myself, then
Right.
what are the attributes of that part of myself that I could focus on?
And even just acknowledging that that exists. I feel
Yeah.
like that's so empowering.
Yeah.
Just taking yourself out of this spiral, out of this just negative feeling place, and just taking a step back and looking at the broader perspective of it all and acknowledging that that infinite self exists.
Yeah, I agree.
That's so empowering to me.
A lot of times what happens, I almost visualize it where I think about the source energy part of myself and the physical part of myself merging. And the more that I'm focused in that energy
Mm-hmm.
of acknowledging what I truly am and my true
Right.
nature, the more those energies get to merge and blend to the point that you have like a vibrational titration in a way, or like a vibrational mixing between like your full on infinite consciousness and your physical. And the closer they get, the more you can feel it and actualize it. And you just get to feel that worthiness like right here and now. And I kind of think about it like channels,
Mm-hmm.
you know, like there's Abraham Hicks, you know, Esther Hicks is a channel of Abraham.
Yeah.
And I see it kind of the same way. Like she's been able to bridge her infinite self and, you know, that energy, that
Yeah.
upper level of her consciousness with her physical reality to the point that she can literally speak through the physical apparatus with that,
Right.
you know, clarity.
She can
And
actually translate vibration
yeah,
into
exactly.
words.
Exactly. So like whether you're channeling in that way or not, like I kind of think about myself channeling the infinite part of my consciousness into me all the time, just by allowing that to fully be present with me now so that I can experience life in my fullest energy and power.
It's really allowing expression, right? So allowing our infinite self to express themselves fully.
Yes, totally.
It's like the ultimate expression.
Yeah, you want to feel like you just had 87 cups of coffee.
Yeah.
Get you a big old dose of that.
Yeah, so it's really fun to acknowledge that that infinite self exists and invite them into your present moment.
Yeah, absolutely.
So when you find yourself at the bottom of the emotional guidance scale, when you find yourself in this negative self-talk, just inviting your infinite self into the current moment and being like, this is who we fully are. If I choose to engage that, then that will be awesome.
Yeah, totally. And I feel like that energy, there's a huge cleanup effect. Essentially, like we have this example of the RoboRock vacuum. Whenever I first got the RoboRock, you got it for me for my birthday.
Mhm.
First off, it blew my mind. I was like, a robot is going to clean my floor, you know? So before I started using it, I was kind of like, I need to clean up the floor. Like, I need to clean up the big areas. Like, if there's any big mess or whatever, I need to go like deal with that first.
I need to do the clean before the clean.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then one day I had this like flip in my head that was basically like, how about you just let RoboRock do its thing? How about you let this robotic vacuum go do the best it can just on its initial pass? And then you just deal with what's left.
Yeah.
And what was remarkable to me is the first few times I tried that, I came down, it was like, there's nothing left to deal with.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Angels' voices singing.
Yeah, like literally like, what happened down here? I feel like that's what happens whenever you engage that side, just like you were talking about. You create this Amazon woman inside your own mind and you engage it and you allow it to be fully present with you here in physicality. And you just allow that worthiness to merge
Mhm.
right here. Then all of a sudden, a lot of those previous feelings of unworthiness that were being generated and qualified by your physical means and physical reality just disappear because you just feel so worthy
Mhm.
that you just are not going to find fault with yourself in the same way that you were before. So it's like letting the RoboRock come through and do a big clean, and then
Right.
coming down to deal with whatever's left and realizing there's nothing left. I have
Yeah.
full worthiness right here, right now. I have it accessible 24/7, and I'm just going to choose that now. And then boom,
Right. I am the truth. I am the light. I am all of these things that I choose to be.
totally.
Have you ever had the experience where somebody is giving you these compliments about these things that they see in you and you're almost caught off guard?
Yeah.
You're like, really? You see those things in me? Because I really don't see those things in myself.
Right.
And it just, to me, it brings up this huge point of these things always existed. I always was those things.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't allow myself to see myself in that way. Like this negative self-talk is between me and who I fully am.
Yeah.
It's like in business, there's a big, like one of the big ideas in business is that the business owner is the biggest constraint.
Mm-hmm.
If the business owner just gets out of the way, then the business can thrive or it
Right.
can go to the next level. So how many times in our own life are we our biggest constraint?
Yeah. Absolutely. Where we're just looking at ourselves in a particular way.
Right. And
remember-
others perceive us in a completely different way.
Yeah. I remember a commercial. I think it was Dove did this commercial.
Mhm.
And basically, they just put two people in a room with each other that were perfect strangers.
Right.
And they would let them interact for just a very short time. And then whenever they came out, they would ask them, what do you remember about that person? Like, how did you perceive that person, basically?
Right.
And it was pretty much 100% across the board, like really positive and nice. People would find things. It's like, well, they were actually a really lovely person. I really liked the way they laugh. They had really pretty eyes. Their hair was really nicely done. They were well dressed, like whatever it was.
Yeah.
But these people just had this total focus on like the positive side of them.
Yeah.
And then they would interview the person that they were describing and ask them to describe themselves.
Mm.
And whenever they told them to describe themselves, the person would almost immediately go into their flaws. You know, like they would say, like, describe your face or whatever. And they'd be like, well, I've got, like crow's feet, and I've got kind of like
Dark circles.
and I've got blemishes. And they would kind of hone in on that. And then they would, in this exercise, they kind of like played back what the other person saw in them, and the people were like really emotional about it. So it's like,
Yeah.
oh, whoa. And I think that was one of the best commercials I ever saw, because it just really brought to light this inner struggle that really everyone is sort of dealing with,
Yeah.
of just like being honed in and focused on what we would perceive within us to be flaws, and how painful that really is. And whenever the outside world is looking at you, they don't see any of that.
So how come we can see the best in others, but yet we see the worst in ourselves? Why are we our own worst critic?
Right.
And I believe it's because like in society, we want to fit in, and we feel like we're not going to fit in if we kind of gloat about the best things about ourselves, about all of the positive aspects of ourselves. So I feel like it would be easier to connect with people if we talk about all of the things we don't like about ourselves.
Yeah, there's kind of this don't brag,
Yeah.
like, oh, that person's really into themselves. They're a narcissist.
Yeah.
They can't see anything around them but themselves.
Right.
There's sort of this narrative of like, you see someone with not enough self-love that's kind of self-deprecating,
Yeah.
then it's kind of like oh, good, they're not being braggartly. They're not a narcissist. They're not too into themselves.
Yeah.
They're concerned about what's going on around them and how other people think about them.
They're in their place.
They're in their place, exactly. But then you see this other side, and the person's just like, I'm amazing. I'm good at everything. I'm so awesome.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, you went too far, dude. Now
Yeah.
you're like now you're a braggart, you're a narcissist, you're a this, you're a that. And
it can definitely rub people wrong. Like if they're below the
100%.
green line and you're dominantly above the green line, then it can be extremely uncomfortable for those people because they're below the green line and usually jealousy.
Yeah.
It's like, what do they have that I don't have?
Yeah.
Or like, these are all of the things that I'm going to find fault in them now because I wish that I was there, but I'm not. And I feel the disparity there.
Yeah, 100%.
So it's this really weird societal thing.
Yeah. And I think you just nailed it in the fact that when someone's below the green line and someone else is above the green line,
Mm-hmm.
there's just this disparity there. And people feel negative emotion because they're focused on that person in a certain way.
Yeah.
Their source is not focused on that person in that way.
Mm-hmm.
They feel negative emotion, but generally what happens is they use that to affirm their correctness about that. So it's like, that person is a braggart, that person is a narcissist, that person blah 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 blah, whatever the narrative is. Like, I don't engage it so much, it's hard to it's hard to even like come up with the words, but
yeah.
you know what I'm saying? Like, they're basically that, and then obviously they're going to feel negative emotion from that because the infinite part of their consciousness is not focused on that person in the way that they are.
Right.
And then they feel like super bad, and then they're like, yeah, I'm kind of like, I'm right, like whatever it is.
One of the frameworks we use in our life whenever situations arise like that is every attack is from a point of insecurity.
Totally.
And put another way, hurt people. And something I've been thinking a lot lately is empower people.
Absolutely.
And you've also said recently from Alex Hormozy, a quote that he says,
hate does not come from above. So people that have more money than you, that are stronger than you, that are more prosperous than you, that have more success in a particular area in physicality than you, are not hating on the way that you're doing things.
Right.
Hate generally comes from below.
And when you acknowledge that, I feel like that's really powerful. We used to say all the time, we don't take advice from people who aren't living a life that we want to live.
Yeah, totally. I mean, in a particular area.
Yeah,
so,
in a particular area. Like if they don't have the relationship we want, we're probably not going to take relationship advice from them. If they don't have the type of business that we want, probably won't take business advice from them, or money advice if they don't have the type of finances we want.
yeah.
Or if they don't have the type of body we want, we probably won't take body advice from them. So we've really applied that to all areas of our life.
Yeah, and it's really just take the best of what you see and encapsulate that, and the things that aren't in harmony with who you are, you don't have to encapsulate that.
Right.
So I actually like that when it comes to looking at anyone, really focusing on the absolute best of the best of the best that you see, and identifying what those things are, and just really honing in on that about people. I've tried to do that in my life, is just find the absolute best of the best of the best in people. And then when others would try to kind of muddy the water and bring negative connotations to people, or bring negative conversations about people to me, like, I always just kind of remind myself of what you just said. Every attack is from a point of insecurity. And it's not my job to feed this person's insecurity, to validate their jealousy. And I just kind of look at it like I'm source energy, and I'm just like, well, it's interesting that you would see it that way. Like, I see it this way and this way and that way.
If your intention is to feel good, then your work is to decide to disengage from whatever those things are that are coming at you.
Totally.
So if somebody's affirming your negative self-talk, then your job, if your intention is to feel good, is to decide to disengage from those ideas.
Yeah, definitely. And I feel like going to the light is always met well energetically. So I remember one time I was in high school, and I had this experience where I was sitting next to a person in class, and they were kind of being like negative. Like, I guess I was trying to engage them, like maybe talk to them, whatever. And they were just kind of being like, eh. And they were in a different crowd, I guess, than I ran in. And I remember him just point blank saying to me, the thing is, really just don't like you. And he just said that. Like, I really don't like you.
Wow.
And
oh my gosh.
the people in his circle that were all in the room saw that as the diss, you know? And like a lot of times in high school and middle school and whatever, you're validated for being able to diss people well, you know? So the whole, and laughter from the peers, whatever, like
ensued,
you know? And so in a way, like I've just been attacked.
Yeah.
But even back then, I knew every attack is from a point of insecurity. So I just looked back at him and I said, well, that's too bad because I like you just fine. And I went back to what I was doing.
Yeah.
It was like, all good. Like you can have your perspective. You can have your choice. You've made your decision in that matter. And now you've made all your friends laugh telling me that you don't like me. But I'm not going there with you.
And that really freed you.
Yeah, it did.
So instead of being below the green line and coming back with something that would make you feel guilty or like fear or whatever it is, like an emotion below the green line, you just released yourself from that and you put the power back in your own court.
Totally. Well, and it was really just because that's the truth.
Yeah.
Like I don't see negativity in you. I still see positivity in that person. But you know what was really interesting is that from that moment on, I guess because I didn't engage in the insecure part of myself that would have made the diss land. You know, like whenever you see the person sort of bend down or break as a result of the diss, like, oh my gosh, my emotional state is now impacted by your perspective about me, then that's what perpetuates it because hurt people.
Yeah,
right?
when
like
you become a good punching bag, then they're going to continue to come back and punch the bag.
Totally. When they see that you're emotionally impacted by them attempting to validate themselves by twisting into your insecurity, then they come back for more.
Yep.
And when there is none of that, then it has a tendency just to cease.
Yeah,
right?
so
and
it'll dissipate or they'll find somebody else.
Yeah, exactly.
Who's a match.
Who's a match to that. But like I said, going above the green line, finding the best in that person, finding the beauty, finding the good things is an exercise that has just always worked for me. Even that person, for example, like I can still think of good things about them that I appreciated. Like they were really smart, they were popular, people liked them, like still really good things.
Yeah.
But that was for me.
Right.
It wasn't for them. Like I didn't make a notebook of all the things I like about this person so that I could go deliver it to them. You know?
And be picked on further.
Yeah, totally.
But even thinking about that, like that's so empowering what you did. But thinking back to even that time, like nothing happens that you're not a vibrational match to. Totally. So maybe you were feeling like a victim or something that day, and then that was like the perfect vibrational match. And maybe they were feeling like a bully that day. Yeah. And it was just this perfect vibrational dance of these things coming together and you getting to experience yourself as that and them getting to experience themselves as what they were. And then, but you had the choice. Totally. You chose to not take that on as negative self-talk and perpetuate it to where 3 decades later you're still dealing with it. Yeah. You decided to just take the power back in and remind yourself who you truly were and remind yourself who they truly are and just keep that at the forefront. Like, this is the truth.
Yeah. So that's kind of an interesting idea. Like when you have like these negative experiences, does that mean like you're out of vibrational harmony with who you are? And every time you have like what would be perceived as a negative experience, that means you've got to go do some vibrational cleanup to like, oh my gosh, I had this like,
I thought that I was doing so good. I thought I made it way past all of these things. Why is this showing up again and again and again?
Yeah, like why did I just have that experience? But like looking back, I see this moment and that wasn't a negative experience for me.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like even now, it could be perceived as negative by someone like, oh man, that was really mean what that person would say. I mean, they literally just point blank said they didn't like you in front of all their friends and made them all laugh and like whatever. That was a vibrational match to who they were, and that is great. But I got to be a vibrational match to who I was. So it really came out to be an opportunity of empowerment, like you said. So I don't see that event as a negative experience. I saw it as an opportunity to be empowered and remember who I was.
To experience yourself more fully as who you truly are.
Totally. And there's a lot of that happens in the world of how are you perceiving these events and experiences that you have?
Yeah.
What meaning are you attaching to them?
Right.
And some people will take things like that and they'll attach a different meaning to it. And then that's sort of that hurt people train of bullying that happens where, you know, that person thought that about me. That must mean that I'm not good enough, smart enough, worthy. I'm certainly not worthy of being in their friend group, you know, like whatever it is. And then it just starts that train of self-deprecation. So when you see that begin to happen in any way, we actually have this really great phrase that we use a lot, which is isolate the incident. So essentially, you can bookend any experience that you choose to, front and back, vibrationally, and make a decision about how you want that to impact your life going forward whenever you revisit that mentally. So sometimes it feels like difficult to isolate the incident if you don't have this paradigm, if you don't have this idea. Things can just bleed into the next thing, into the next thing, into the next thing, and the next thing. And then there's this domino effect where this experience now pushes 15 hours into the future, 15 days into the future, 15 years into the future. You know what I mean? Because it started this like domino effect of things falling over, and self-deprecation. Whereas if you can isolate the incident and just say that's what that is or was, and every attack is from a point of insecurity, I hope that they're doing okay. Because there's pain there.
Right.
You know, and you can have a little bit of compassion and just move on. That's a totally different experience than looking inside for all the reasons to validate what they just said to you, you know, and start this negative self-talk of like, well, why don't they like me? Oh, what is it about me? Oh, and you just kind of, it gets ugly fast.
And the irony is that at the same time that you're doing those things, like laying in bed, restless at night, trying to sleep, and all of these things are playing back in your mind, everyone else is doing that too.
Totally.
If they're not vibration fit.
Yeah, and you feel for a person that was feeling that way to the point that they would actually like materialize it into words and direct them at a person. And attack them.
Right.
Verbally.
They must have been feeling way below the green line.
Totally. So like you think that person goes to bed at night feeling great.
With rainbows and butterflies.
Yeah, feeling great about what they said to that person.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like just doing that. So that chain of pain is just something that I choose not to perpetuate personally.
Right. Yeah. And I feel like it's really rampant in school as kids are
I see it a
discovering
lot now.
Who they are, and they're going about like navigating their emotions and trying to figure things out and making sense of the world, making sense of their relationships, maybe with their parents or with their family or with their friends. There's a lot to figure out. It's like Earth School.
Earth
You're
School.
still trying to figure out how to be human.
And I think I have a huge passion for kids. Obviously, we have kids. And if my kids could have one thing when they go to school, I just want them to have this deep inner knowing of worthiness. I want them to know where worthiness actually comes from. I want them to know that they're the physical extension of infinite consciousness and that they were born worthy and they're still worthy. They're going to die worthy and they're always going to be worthy because you're a part of source energy that the entire physical universe erupts from. And there's nothing in that that's unworthy, dude.
Right.
And nothing about this physical reality or anything that anybody says or any judgment that they would make about you and cast towards you or stone that they would throw on you is going to change that.
Mm.
If you can get that deeply embedded
Yeah.
in a person, then they're empowered.
Right.
Then you don't have to worry about the stones that will be cast.
Yeah.
Because they're not going to allow it to impact their own feeling of worthiness and that own knowing.
Totally.
So, but I feel like all those people that are out of the vortex, so to speak, and they've forgotten who they are, and they've allowed someone to train them out of their inner knowing of worthiness.
Mm-hmm.
That's, for lack of a better term, just a bummer to watch.
Yeah. It's sad because they're experiencing pain because they're not lined up with the infinite part of their consciousness.
Totally.
So there's pain there.
So the more we can empower kids with this knowledge of worthiness,
mm-hmm. and
fundamentally
empower ourselves
and empower ourselves with this knowledge of worthiness,
mm-hmm.
I think the better off everybody's going to be.
Definitely. One of the things that Lynn was mentioning was specific phrases that we can delete from our negative self-talk.
Mm-hmm.
So things that really perpetually keep us down, that keep us below the green line, that if we don't decide to disengage, they kind of go rampant and turn into a spiral. So what is your take on that?
So this actually brings up a couple of ideas.
Mm-hmm.
One of which being, a lot of times in the spiritual space, you'll find this like idea of deletion, where whenever you see a thought that doesn't serve you, all of a sudden you need to like attack that thought and delete it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. It doesn't exist.
It doesn't exist. It's not real. Click, 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 click.
I don't see it. It's
I don't see it. I didn't see it. I didn't hear it. Ah.
It's like our 3-year-old playing hide and seek, and like she's obviously sticking out from like under the door, like her toes are all sticking out, and she's being very loud.
Yeah, totally.
But she's like, I'm not here.
I'm not here. Don't look here.
It's like, I see you.
Yeah, totally. So like, first off, with the concept of deletion, first off,
Yeah.
we live in an inclusion-based universe. If a thought has come into thought form,
Mm-hmm.
so it's actually been able to manifest from just vibration into an actual physical thought that you could perceive, that you could potentially put words to, that you could even speak out of your mouth, that thought form exists. There is no deleting it.
Right.
You're always going to have access to it.
Mm-hmm.
First off. So when this concept of like deletion comes up,
Yeah.
for me, it's futile because there is no deleting something out of the universe. You know what I mean? So rather than deleting it, which actually just applies more energy and momentum to it,
Mm-hmm.
right? So whenever you go try to delete something, you're going, there's this thing that I don't want to exist, that I don't want to engage, and I need to go do some phrase or do some process or do something to try to wipe it off the face of the earth, off the face of the universe, out of consciousness. I need it to disappear across all time and space forever.
Because it keeps coming up, so it must be there. It must be this big hairy monster that I need to beat with a baseball bat until it goes away forever.
Do you have a magical baseball bat that I could like mystically beat down all of my negative self-talk?
Doesn't that sound satisfying?
It does. I want one. Like, if you ever, like, I feel like that would be like the movie that we would make. It's like, he's come across the stick of destiny that would allow him to magically destroy and delete
and
every
destroy
negative self-talk. Yeah. You have self-talk. Whack, 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 whack. But the reality is, it's kind of like one of those, like, little gopher machines that you see at
Whack-a-mole?
Yeah, like whack-a-mole.
Yeah.
Like you see at the arcades, it's like whack.
The moles
whack.
keep coming up.
Yeah, they keep
and then they
popping
get
up in other
faster.
places. Yeah. Or like one of those squishy balls that my kids have. Like you squish one thing and like a whole nother thing comes out like
Yeah.
it sticks out another way.
Right.
And it's like
comes
that
out of the mesh.
Yeah, that's like deleting. That's like trying to delete a thought. Like it's just, you know, no matter how hard you squeeze or how hard you hit it with a hammer, like it doesn't go away. It's still there. And
because the more focus you put on it, the more it's going to present itself.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So There is no requirement to delete from the universe.
That's a bottomless rabbit hole.
Absolutely. All thought that's ever been thought still exists in the ether, in the electromagnetic ether of consciousness.
Right.
Say, like, it's all out there.
And the more you've thought those thoughts, the more vibrational momentum around them.
Absolutely. In fact, if you think about like what mass consciousness is, mass consciousness is sort of a database of all that thought form that's available. And what most people are in vibrational harmony with is those thought forms. So they perceive them, sort of pick up on the vibration of them, put them to thought in their own mind that they can put words to, and then out the mouth they come. But
it's kind of like fast food. It's an easy grab.
Yeah, totally. It's like, blah, 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 blah. So it's like...
It's like, you know, it's not the healthiest for you, but it's really easy. It's there.
Yeah,
it's available.
Totally. And it's in vibrational harmony with where you are. And when you think about mass consciousness, that's where the majority of the planet is.
Right.
Right? The majority of the planet
95% unconsciously creating.
Totally. They're just running through the drive-through window, picking up on mass consciousness, not being aware of what they're engaging.
Yeah.
Not being the conscious creator of their reality, where they're looking at that thing that they're grabbing and then making a decision about whether it serves them or not, and whether they're going to include it in their vibration or not.
Yeah.
But just basically blindly grabbing whatever they have vibrational access to. So for me personally, mass consciousness is not where I want to engage, because the majority of that is met with low-end vibrational
feelings,
like low end on the vibrational scale stuff. And it's not fun for me to live down there. I like to live above the green line. So essentially, deletion is not required. If it was required, you'd have to delete all of mass consciousness. Can you imagine?
Yeah. You're gone.
Yeah.
You're gone.
Yeah, it's like one of the Avengers movies, like where the guy gets all these stones and finally he can squeeze his hand and eliminate like half of the population of the universe. You know, that's actually a movie that's out there, like the Avengers Endgame or whatever.
Yeah.
But like, that's not required.
No.
It's not necessary, because you're always
and it's not recommended.
And it's not recommended. Yeah, like attempting to wipe out all of the negative stuff that's out there that's not serving you is impossible and pointless. And just because you had that show up in your own mind doesn't mean that it's something that individually needs to be isolated and killed, right?
And then you're also not practicing living in your present moment.
Totally.
You're focused on the fear of the past.
Absolutely.
And the future.
You just nailed it. So the fear, why would someone feel the need to delete this thought form that just showed up?
I believe because they feel the negative emotion of the gap between where they are and their infinite self, and they're afraid that they're going to continue to feel that way.
You nailed it. It's fear. I'm afraid that this will show up again if I don't kill it now. I need to go to the source of it. I need to pluck it out. I need to pull it like a weed. I need to watch it die in front of me so that I can experience peace.
Yeah.
And never be bothered by this thing again.
Right.
And the reality is there's just an infinite amount of thought form that matches the same vibration as that thought form.
Yeah.
That's available to you.
So people come up with crazy things. Maybe if I conduct the exact right thought form funeral, then then I'll never have to deal with this again.
Yeah, it's like totally like if I can make sure that this thing is 6 feet down and dead, then
I'm safe.
I'm safe
Until the next one arrives.
Totally. So
that's not freedom, guys.
that's not freedom, man. Like, that's not above the green line. Like conducting thousands of little mini funerals for your negative
thought form funerals.
Yeah, thought form funerals for your negative thoughts is not the path. More than
not
likely.
too consciously creating
Totally.
or joyously creating.
Yeah.
Let's remember the purpose of life is joy here.
Totally. So if we move out of this idea that deletion is required, which is great because it's impossible. The thought form is still out there and it's still available. And even if you were able to kill that individual one, there's plenty of thought form that would match it.
Right.
Available to you always. So what's a better
framework
to engage is it's all about what's active now. So it's not about deleting something that didn't serve you. It's about activating something that does.
Your WAN, right? Is that how you say it?
Your WAN, what's active now, WAN. I think it's funny because it's also the acronym for Wide Area Network, which is kind of like a Wi-Fi term anyway.
Yeah, for you computer geeks out there.
Yeah, it's like the signal kind of related thing. But yeah, so rather than having to delete everything that comes up, when I think about isolating the incident, I basically am just choosing not to perpetuate it forward. So I'll have these little micro events that happen. And by the way, this happens to everybody all the time. We actually still have a relatively primitive brain, that is designed to look for threat all around us. And that's one of the reasons why we can stay alive, So don't beat yourself up whenever really weird thoughts that are fear-based come in. Like, what if that semi-truck just all of a sudden flies through the air through my windshield? It's like, It's like your brain will do weird stuff like that.
Well, there aren't that many centuries between us and, like, Neanderthals.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
People like the Crudes.
Yeah, totally.
In the animated movie.
We basically just got here.
Yeah.
It's like this iteration of the human body.
Yeah.
But yeah, so at the end of the day, it really is about just isolating that. And what I like to do is disengage. We've talked about this. So Vanessa has a really great process called the A.U.R.A process. There's an entire podcast dedicated to it. And there's also resources available at vibrationfit.com. It's all free where you can download the process. She made a really cool document and stuff. But
in the tuning section.
Yeah, in the tuning section. So essentially, this is sort of the disengage, unplug section where it's just like, I'm going to be aware of it. And then what I do whenever I have that weird primitive stuff come up is I try to provide like a little bit of a grateful lean to it. Like, thank you, primitive brain.
Yeah.
For making me aware of a potential danger that's around. But we're safe. Everything's cool. Like this morning, I'm changing Eloise on her changing table. And my daughter, Adeline, is being an absolute maniac in the crib, jumping from the changing table to the crib and basically entertaining the baby.
Living her best life.
Living her best life.
Her best 3-year-old spicy life.
While I'm like trying to navigate this diaper. And it's a solid 3.5 feet from there to the floor. So my brain watching the mayhem is going, is the baby safe? Like that, this is not safe. The baby could fall off of this onto the floor. And you know what could happen if the baby falls from here, that height to the floor? Like, she could be. Yeah.
My fight or flight chemicals are running rampant.
Totally.
I'm either going to have to fight my 3-year-old right now or take my baby and run.
Totally. It's like this crazy. And you're like, Jordan, are you nuts? And it's like, yeah, I guess a little bit. You could say it's like the primitive brain is identifying threat. And when it comes to your offspring, it's almost like more intense than your own personal body. It's like, you do not mess with my offspring. Like, you can mess with me, but like, do not mess with my offspring. That's how it is in the wild too. Like they always say mama bear. Yeah. Like the last thing you want to do is roll up on a mama bear because she's got her cubs.
Oh yeah.
And she will just absolutely rip you apart limb by limb. If you even sort of threaten her cubs. Anyway, so I get this around the kids a good bit. So
Daddy bear,
yeah. And whatever you want to call that. So I basically will see that and I'll be like, thanks, but no thanks kind of thing. Like, thank you. The baby's safe. She's safe. I got her. Thank you, baby's safe. And then this happens like maybe 17 times in a row because Adeline's jumping into the crib, jumping back up. Is she going to step on the baby's face? Like, what's going on? Does she know? And she's just still learning about physicality and how things work. Like, is she going to knock the baby off the tail? Like, what's going on?
Yeah.
It's okay. Baby's safe.
Yeah.
Baby's safe. Thank you. Baby's
I'm
safe.
deciding to disengage from this.
And then I engage in the safety. So if the fear is around the non-safety of the baby, I engage mentally in the safety of the baby, right? The baby's safe. The baby's safe. I got her. I got my hand on her. Like, if it makes you feel better, I'll put my hand on her. You know, primitive brain. It's okay. I got her. You know, she's safe. I'll put this little strap over her. That's why it came with the changing table, apparently. Like, click that on, and now she can't escape from my my diaper change here.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I feel like that's a really cool thing to do is whenever you have that side of it, now you actually have the opportunity to disassociate from that as being like a part of yourself.
Right.
You know, it's like that was like primitive brain stuff.
Yeah.
Like, that's not a piece of my identity. I'm not a fearful person.
Yeah.
It's just my brain jumping in going, hey, man, there's like a straight up threat right here.
Yeah. I'm not going to judge myself for being human.
Yeah.
That's just a natural part of it.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like that's really healthy. The A.U.R.A process is awareness, unplug, replace, activate.
Totally.
So you become aware of the thing. You decide to disengage from it by unplugging. You replace it with something that is productive, that is a feeling that you want to engage. And then you activate it. So whenever it comes up in the future, you have something that you can return to, a vibration that actually felt good and it resonated with you that you can return to again.
Totally. I think it's fun doing this with you because we never had acronyms for stuff before our processes, but it's amazing the number of times I perform the A.U.R.A process daily.
Yes.
Around little things like that, where I'm like, you find something activating.
Yeah.
And you become aware. When you feel the emotional repercussions of it are a below the green line thing, then you unplug. You find something to replace it with. So if it's fear, then I replace it with the idea of like safety. And then I just repeatedly activate safety, 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 safety kind of thing. And that's what I engage.
Right.
Until that catches hold and catches momentum. And then boom, there's like the piece of safety associated with that thought. And I think when you have littles like 5, 3, and 1, like we have now,
5, 3, and 0,
and 0, yeah, like 10 months.
Yeah,
it's very much an ongoing process where I do this hundreds of times a day.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I think a lot of times people can beat up on themselves because the same thing comes up again and again and again, and they feel like it should have been resolved, but it's not. And that's not an indication that you haven't made any progress.
Yeah.
The fact that you're aware of it, that it's the same vibration occurring again, that is progress.
Yeah.
And the work there is just deciding to disengage from it, like you were just saying, and replace it with something that actually feels good to you.
Yeah.
And then continue to activate that anytime it comes up, because you have vibrational momentum around these things, around these negative self-talk loops, around these thought loops that have created a rut in your brain. Like there's obviously vibrational momentum because they continue to come up. Right. And that's not something to judge yourself for. It's literally the way that the universe operates. This is the law of attraction. This is vibrational momentum. These things that you have momentum around are going to come up again. And the work is just to decide to disengage from them and replace them with something else. Not delete them, not try to pick all of these weeds out of your brain that you feel like are plaguing you and keeping you stuck in a place, but just observe them, decide to disengage, replace them with something else, and continue to activate that new good feeling thought.
Until it has momentum.
Until it replaces the other thing that didn't feel good, and the new productive self-talk does have vibrational momentum.
Totally.
Because then that will become your quick grab.
Yes.
That will become the fast food. It'll become easy.
Yeah, now you're doing meal prep.
Right.
Like you're building this base of beautiful like vibrations to choose from, and you're practicing them, you're engaging them, and now it's amazing how often you'll be able to grab onto that one thing over and over and over and over and over again. That's a lot healthier for you emotionally and puts you above the green line.
Definitely. Yeah, totally. And it's funny, like a lot of people can see these things in you already, and occasionally they'll share them with you. Like, for example, this one situation keeps coming up in my mind. We were at a function that was around Halloween last year, and these family friends, they were talking to us about us being parents, and they were like, you guys are a really great example of parents. And I just remember looking at her and thinking, really?
Deb and Jay.
Yeah, Deb and Jay.
I love Deb
friends.
and Jay. They're the bomb.
And she was just speaking all of this truth into me. And I just remember thinking, like, you guys see that in us? You really think that we're great parents? And
I remember that conversation too.
Yeah. And they were like, yeah, you guys are like among the best example that we have for parenting.
Totally. Yeah. I remember that. Like I remember her saying, whenever I think about parenting and like what a model would be, it's you guys and the way that you interact with your family. I'm like,
what?
Wow. I'm like, what? That's awesome. First off, thank you. Like I'm trying to like receive that compliment, but like there are so many times I just feel like I'm such an asshole. You know what I mean? like really. But it's really nice you see that outer perspective. And we all deal with it where you just like don't necessarily see that, but then they see it in you.
Yeah, like we're really like we beat up on ourselves a lot, and we're like our biggest critics in life. And so whenever these things come through from other people where they can see the truth, they can really see like your true self, your infinite self. They can see all of that, and they share it with you. It feels really good. And that's something we've talked about, is the ability to accept a compliment. So compliments really are a gift.
Yeah.
So if somebody's giving you a compliment, that's like they're giving you a vibrational gift.
Yeah. Totally.
Really,
like
it really is. It's like
here's some love.
Yes, it's like the vibrational gift of empowerment.
Yeah.
Of love, of joy. They see these things and they're sharing them with you. And that is a gift. Yeah. So even training yourself to be good at accepting compliments.
Yeah, and receiving that.
Yeah, to receiving the compliments.
Yeah.
That's something that would be extremely healthy. Because I know there have been a lot of times in my life where I have not been the best at accepting compliments, or I'll kind of like brush it off and be like, oh no, that's not me.
Yeah.
But the better you get at that, the more you engage that positive self-talk, the more you allow yourself to see yourself more fully of who you truly are. And it's funny how we already are a lot of these things that we strive to be. Yeah. We just hold ourselves apart from allowing us to actually see that.
Totally. And that's where the above the green line life comes from, is engaging that side of ourselves and allowing us to feel the positive emotional repercussions of that positive self-talk, that positive self-love, that real, true inner knowing of worthiness, right? And accepting those compliments and allowing ourselves to really experience it, because you're really good at pointing this out, but who are you serving by not accepting that compliment?
Nobody.
Who are you serving by not engaging that idea about yourself? Like, is there someone else out there that's going to feel like a better parent because you didn't engage in the idea that you're a good parent? You know what I mean? And the reality is, the more self-love that you can engage with, the more you can really fill yourself up, the more you can really experience that feeling of worthiness. And the more that you can engage ideas about yourself vibrationally that match that above the green line focus, the more momentum you're going to build inside of that and get to experience it in your own life, to where ultimately you're an above the green line person. Right. You feel worthy. You feel self-love. You feel like this awesome piece of God's amazing light physically expressing in the universe. And you will be an absolute beacon of light in the physical universe to other people, because they'll see that above the green line focus and be like, man, I want to be like that.
Totally.
I want to be like that. And they'll be like, how do you do it? How do you stay so happy all the time? Like, how are you like this? It's
right.
like, it's really deeply love myself.
I believe I am totally and completely worthy.
So worthy. I'm so worthy of all the love.
Totally. And
I just love it.
The other side of that is also whenever you feel compelled to share something positive about somebody else.
Totally.
To really put a coin in the cup of somebody else's self-worth.
Yeah.
That is also a huge gift.
Deb did that to me the other day.
Yeah.
Again, Deb and Jay. These people are awesome. She just called me and was like, I think you and Vanessa are awesome. I think what you're doing with this podcast is so good. I think it's so important. And, a lot of times we have this stuff in our minds and we say it to ourselves and we think it, but we don't share it with the person. So this is like an I love you call just to tell you that I'm thinking that right now.
Wow.
And I was just like, you rock. You're amazing.
Sometimes those are huge vibrational anchors or even life anchors that keeps you moving forward.
Yeah.
Even with starting this business. Like at the very beginning, we launch, you launch any business or you launch a podcast and it's like, okay, 10 views, 20 views, 100 views.
0 views.
0 views. Yeah. And it's like, I guess this is still good stuff.
Yeah.
Like this is still, it feels good to me. I feel like we're doing great things. And then somebody will tell you like this, I listened to this podcast and I had this realization and now I'm doing this. And it really is making a huge impact in my life, or it's really changing my life in this way, or I'm feeling better about these things, or I'm feeling better about myself. And just like a little thing that somebody shares, which is actually like a huge thing. These are like huge unlocks for us.
Totally.
That's what keeps us moving forward.
Totally. Yeah, and you think about some of these really big people that are out there in the space.
Yeah.
Like how many of them did the next thing because they got just a little bit of positive feedback somewhere.
Yeah, like some nights we're up till 2 a.m. editing a podcast or doing something to the website because of some feedback that we got.
Yeah.
Or we're developing a resource because somebody's like, hey, do you have that? I really want to use that thing that you told me about, that tool. And then that's what drives us to stay up till 2 a.m. completing that thing.
Yeah.
And it's like the next right thing. It's the next calling forth of the next right thing. So
totally.
Yeah, you never know what that's going to be for somebody. So when you feel compelled to share that with someone, share it because it's a gift to them and it's also a gift to you.
Totally.
What was that one saying that we heard? It was along the lines of whenever you give a gift to somebody, you actually experience the positive emotion even greater than the person receiving the gift.
Totally. He basically was saying you can only receive what you give. Like essentially like what you give is what you're capable of receiving.
Right.
So like to practice receiving love, give love, it's kind of this reciprocating thing. And the more you can give, then the more you're going to allow yourself to receive and kind of vice versa. So I think it's a good practice to really focus on the best in people, in the world, and engage that and share when you can.
Yeah, definitely. And one last thing that I'd like to share is basically the idea of vibrational unlocks. So there are these different things that I've come across or become aware of in my own life. And one of it seems simple, but it actually has made a huge difference in my life is around our babies. So like a lot of the times the mother, especially if they're nursing, there's like this whole dialogue of, I don't get cuddles. Like they're just using me for the milk. I'm basically the milk wagon. And so I found myself stuck in that mentality of, well, she's just using me for my milk. Like she doesn't actually want to cuddle. She just basically will nurse and then she wants to go play or she wants to go to you and she'll cuddle you, but she won't cuddle me. So I found myself stuck in this dialogue. And all of a sudden one day I became aware of it. I was like, I'm doing this to myself.
Yeah.
I'm creating this.
I'm basically repelling the cuddles.
Yeah, I'm being a cuddle repellent. This this is not cool because I love cuddles. Totally. I love those baby snuggles. They're so precious.
Totally.
And so from that day on, I made up a song, actually. This is kind of embarrassing.
Oh, you're a great singer. You should rock this thing.
No, now there's pressure. So I would start singing. I'd say, I get lots and lots of snuggles all the time. I get lots and lots of snuggles all the time. I get lots and lots of snuggles because my babies love to cuddle. I get lots and lots of snuggles all the time. And from the day that I started singing this crazy song, I really did start getting all of the baby cuddles.
You have.
I have. He sees it all the time.
I saw this happen.
Oh, yeah.
It really did happen.
Like baby head snuggled like into my shoulder,
yeah, she's like in
neck,
there.
like, oh yeah, all the way nuzzled in.
She started hugging you like, with her little tiny arm. She'd be like,
oh yeah, she would put her little tiny fingers like around me and just really embrace me.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, oh my gosh, this is magic. This is amazing.
Totally.
And that was like a huge vibrational unlock for me, even though it seems crazy. It seems inconsequential, but like as a parent, that's huge.
Yeah.
It's like I completely shifted the way that I'm experiencing our kids.
Yeah.
The way that I'm experiencing our baby in the first year of her life. And that's a big thing for me. The same idea with our friend Lynn. She was telling me a story about how she perceived her dog. Her dialogue was basically, you don't love me. So every day she was telling that to her dog, you don't love me. And the dog would act like that.
Yeah.
It would act like it didn't love her. It wasn't warm to her or anything. And then she started changing her dialogue. And this was a realization that both of us had around the same time.
Yeah.
And hadn't even expressed it to each other, but she had a very similar story. So she changed her dialogue around the dog. She's stopped saying you don't love me and replaced that with you love me so much.
Yeah.
I love you so much. And her dog started showing up completely different to her.
I can totally see that.
And just these little things, even with the podcast, like a few years ago, and with Vibration Fit as a whole, a few years ago, I did not see myself sitting here with you doing this podcast or being front facing at all with Vibration Fit. Mm-hmm. The entire idea for the past 5 years, up until the last year or two, was that you would be the front facing figure. You would be the coach, you would be the trainer, you would be everything, and I would be behind the scenes. And that was always the story that I told until I started having this desire that became more and more clear that I actually would like to be front facing.
Totally.
I would like to do a lot of the business stuff with you.
And thank God you did.
I'm just saying, these are like all of these huge vibrational unlocks.
Yeah.
Like this could be the Jordan show right now.
Yeah, and it would stay at 0 views.
No, it wouldn't. You're incredible.
No,
There's that self-talk.
Yeah, no, exactly. See, exactly. Perfect example. But really, like, we're having so much more fun with it being both of us. And there might have been a dialogue in the very beginning because I was spiritually indoctrined with a whole bunch of cool stuff whenever you and I met. So in the beginning, I was kind of your vibrational coach in the beginning for conscious creation.
Oh, for sure.
So
you were my trainer. You were everything.
Yeah,
I was
like,
just
hey,
learning the ropes.
Like, you're the conscious creator of you're the creator of your reality. Mm-hmm. So now that you're aware of that, let's listen to some of these things and you'll become more aware and you'll gain more knowledge, and then you'll start to practice, and then you'll ultimately become the conscious creator, conscious allower of your reality. And that was like when we first started dating, like I was kind of introducing you to that stuff. Well, yeah. What eventually happened, which has been really great for me, is you took it to a whole nother level, and now you're my vibrational coach. So like
we're very balanced.
I literally tell people that all the time. Like they'll ask a question. Sometimes people will ask me a question, and you'll chime in, and I'll be like, "You're getting my vibrational coach now." Like the person that coaches me is now coaching you, so you should listen up to this. And you like literally just spit fire like a dragon when it comes to this stuff. You're just like stuff comes out of your mouth.
From the best.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think you and I having each other to build on is really cool because we really build these conversations. You toss something out, I toss it back, you toss it back, and we're just really like, I think about like the gym rollers where you put like these rocks that are all, sharp in this tumbler, and you start tumbling them and tumbling them and tumbling them, and eventually they get all smooth. That's what you and I do with each other all the time.
Yeah.
So it is fun to watch the evolution of desire and start to see these vibrational unlocks within yourself where you go, you know what? I am worthy.
Right.
And I am capable, and I have value to add, and I have this massive desire to now be in front of the camera and to be able to share this with other people. I am going to develop into this. And then as we started to shoot videos and we started to shoot these podcasts, we started to shoot things, it was very clear, like, you are amazing with content creation, content generation, being on camera, the way that you speak. And that's another thing I think that we had like years ago is I've spoken on stages to thousands and thousands of people.
Right.
You had not had that experience yet.
No.
You know?
And I really, like years ago, I didn't care to have that experience.
Right.
I was like, I'm fine with hiding. I'm fine with being behind the scenes, doing all of the things that people get to consume, like all the creative, but letting you take the light kind of thing.
Yeah, and it's really funny because you start to see, like, this is a perfect example to wrap up our talk on self-talk, because if you had allowed that self-talk to perpetuate itself into your future reality, then no one would be graced with your wonderful presence on camera. So the fact that you felt the desire within and begin to engage it and begin to build new thought form around it and perform the aura processes on places where you felt stuck, ultimately is what's making this available to people.
Yeah.
And honestly, I feel like it got to launch a lot faster and a lot more robustly because we were both at this place where we could have this dialogue and give ourselves permission to do so.
Right. Yeah. So that really is the work, as simple as it seems, just finding those things in your life and really observing, like, where are these stone walls between where I am and my desire? Because those are the things that make you feel like you're stuck.
Yeah.
And all you have to do is just back up, become aware of it, observe it, and just get past it and replace it with positive self-talk.
Totally.
Just don't worry about deleting the negative self-talk. Just know that all it is an opportunity to line up with who you truly are, because that person is there all the time, holding steadfast to all that you've become.
You are worthy. You are infinite consciousness projected into a physical body, and you are one with God, and God is everything.
You are amazing.
You're amazing. You're so great.
Yes.
Yes. So this is definitely like a namaste conversation.
Namaste.
The light in me sees the light in you.
And with that, we would love to send love and light to all.